Hey guys, I'm Mr. Junior here, aka Mustached. I'm here to review the movie Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. If you end up enjoying this full movie review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers, second to my Patreon and PayPal where you can help support me and my channel directly, and fourth to my Discord server where we can join, collab, and chill and do all that cool stuff. With all that out of the way, let's get into Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. So I have seen the trailer for this movie quite a few times, or at least the initial trailer anyways, and I proceeded not to check out anything else, and I was like, oh, this seems like a, new version of TMNT that's gained my interest. I believe my previous iteration that I was most familiar with anyways was around 2009 maybe, or maybe fairly recently. It's the TMNT one where they eventually were inspired by Avatar: The Last Airbender to date that movie, or date that series in particular, well enough. So, it was really interesting to see how the dynamic of the TMNT would be done once more. And what I will say is this. While I still think that that previous iteration I just mentioned is still my personal favorite among the ones I've seen, I do think that this does cover a part of TMNT that I think was, a bit lacking, quite frankly, that being covering the teenage part of it. Now, to be fair, that was covered a little bit by the previous, the one I am mentioning currently, with the young crushes and all the young love and the teenage angst was not too, at the core of it, but there were parts of it that did entangle teenaged angst in it. However, one thing that was greatly pointed out by said director is that typically the TMNT, even in that series, was voiced indeed by adults, not teenagers. So he thought it would be wise to actually hire teenagers to voice teenagers, and I do think that that does really bring a level of authenticity when you can match the thing to the thing that you can achieve close to it, but you can't ever nail it one-to-one, obviously. And that's what I'm going to say about any diversity casting, whether that's, being gay, or being trans, or being a teenager in this example. I get the whole acting thing is all about, becoming someone you're not, but in terms of authenticity, trying to reach that level of, thing, again, you can only ever get so close if you're a great actor. You can't be that thing, if that makes any sense. Again, you can get close. That's as far as I'm allowing it to say. You can always get close, but you can never match it. And I do think, again, there's that level of authenticity that it will always feel like it's missing. So I am appreciative of that fact. And to be frank, when I saw the initial trailer, I was a little bit worried, because there was a part in the trailer where it showed the ninjas barging into the high school, or a high school, and they're in this cafeteria setting, and then you see like these cut frames of them entering, and then the students looking all at them, and then them beginning to react. And I thought, were they sacrificing the teenage part and amping that up and dropping the ninja part completely? Luckily, that is not quite what ends up happening. Quite a different story altogether is actually told here, so let's get into it. Let's not waste any more time. So we learned that the creator of this ooze, the green ooze that makes the TMNT in the first place, is Baxter Stockman, a vintage TMNT villain. They give him a little bit more of a backstory here of a person who is very clearly outcasted by society. He's made these experiments, so much so with animals, more so than humans, to essentially, create sort of being of way. However, his facilities are soon to be interrupted. Now, I will apologize because I don't remember what it stands for officially, the TCRI, because I know that is a building that is used in the TMNT lore quite frequently, but I don't remember officially what it stands for. But that building gets invaded by this team moving in. We see that the team does get messed up by one of these mutants that are left there. That I assume ends up becoming our main antagonist of the film, of this film anyway, Superfly, as he's known. But we also see the ooze, one of the ooze vials, get kicked down into the sewer grates, where we see it, land, and 15 years pass from this little sequence, where we see our 4 TMNT bros running on the top of the rooftops. From top to bottom, we have Mikey at the top of the poster, Leonardo, still the leader, Raph, the rage-filled one, and Mikey being the sort of the loose, free sort of one, and Donatello, or Donnie, as the smarty, the nerd, or the gear guy. So they maintain that status quo, because that has actually been sort of like the typical way these 4 have been presented for actually quite a time now, because that wasn't always the case. They, at some point, even before the TMNT show that I'm talking about, they gained these sort of attributes. And from those attributes, they have been maintained more frequently than infrequently, as far as I can remember. That's a lot of TMNT lore to go back through, but I'm pretty sure it has remained pretty consistent that Leonardo has pretty been consistently the leader, Raph has been pretty consistently the angered one, Mikey has been pretty consistently the wild one, and Donnie has been pretty consistently the nerdy one. So yeah, so they're maintaining that, so that's cool. So they are on one of their earlier missions, or perhaps even their first outside missions, or maybe, I'm not too sure, but point is that they want to supply up via food and other miscellaneous stuff to help them pass the time. So they do indeed stealth some of that stuff away. But we see that, meanwhile, these crimes are going on in the background via TV. And speaking of, during their escapades or after the fact, they want to just chill and watch some of their own movies. So before heading back, they watch a movie. So, as soon as they head home, Splinter, played by Jackie Chan, and speaking of, I just did a movie with Jackie Chan in it, so he's been pretty busy, or back in the spotlight anyway, because I don't remember last time Jackie Chan was in a thing, outside of the 2 movies I'm just reviewing right now. It might have been a while. Anyway. So he, Splinter, this time around, points the light right at them pretty right away. Now, I will say this Splinter is a much shorter, stouted Splinter. and he has a no tolerance for humans policy already going on, and decides to go over the story as he's acting as a punishment, and also to elude us, the audience, of how they came to be. So we see how Splinter was a normal rat and was scurrying about being hated by other animals, and how he came into the sewers, fleeing from various things, including humans most of all, and he proved how humans seem to be the most willing to want him dead. And how when he arrived at the sewers, he encountered the 4 turtles already covered in the goo, or ooze, rather, and how the ooze turtle pumped up against him, and thus his own transformation began. So we see a little bit of a montage of him taking care of the 4 baby turtles, and even tried we see a part of the montage where the babies are like pointing up at the top side, and Splinter's like, alright, I'll give it a shot. But it went pretty bad, to the point of wanting to hide again pretty immediately. So, in an act of defiance and defense, Splinter learned and caught them some karate movies, as well as tapes and other videos and means of trying to figure out how to learn martial arts to defend themselves, to, well, teach them how to defend themselves, just in case anything were to ever happen. And proceeds to then ground them. But we can see that he's already pretty worried about them pretty heavily throughout the movie. We then cut to our heist, one of our many, being run by the show of our main antagonist named, but again, Superfly. And in fact, one of the vehicles a part of this heist is taken out by Superfly, and we learn that he deals with guys in a certain lethal way, accordingly, I guess. So, we see some more TCRI building prop up, and then we cut to the 4 bros recording them back outside. So we're now, we cut to the amount of allotted time that they were grounded for, and back outside, and they're recording, just, chilling, hitting some food with their weapons, and as they're practicing and goofing around, one of them throws a shuriken, and it hits the helmet of April O'Neil. On her helmet, she proceeds to yell at them, and she can only see their silhouettes as they're standing up there. And while she's doing so, her vehicle is being stolen or being robbed from her. So, a change in dynamic. Leo is the one who seemingly has the crush on April O'Neil, which is different. In the one that I said was my favorite, it was actually Donnie was the most prevalently infatuated with April O'Neil in that version of TMNT. And I will also say that Splinter is a really hard Splinter to beat in terms of cool factor. Clearly the Splinter is going for a bit something different here, and I do like him. I just like that other Splinter so much better. There is such a level of this level of just elegance that he has that is just, there's something very, very traditional Japanese about it that I really appreciate. And this one's the they seem to be going off of the gimmick of the time period, which is like early 1990s and early 1990s, I guess, because of all the music the choices that they have in this movie. So yeah, Leo is now the one crushing on her, at least initially anyways. They run into a squad, and during this sequence, they have a little bit of a fun callback of nostalgia of when one of them, I believe it's Mikey, who ends up in the car, and he hits like the radio button and it plays "Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go," which is a nostalgic reference to the live action TMNT movie, the original TMNT movie, in terms of the live action costumes and stuff like that. So, pretty nostalgic play there. And the radio continues to play as they fight. And I do appreciate, at the very most, like, they try to sync up the songs that they use with, like, there's always usually a radio playing. It's like the super easy, like, out of, like, when you need outside music in your universe for whatever reason. And it's like, yeah, you know, you can buy that. Like, yeah, it's on the radio. It's like someone's listening to it on their headsets. You know, there's plenty you can do to, like, be like, yeah, that makes sense in the canon world, I suppose. So, you know, plenty cool moments. And the fighting scene in general is still really cool and action-oriented. And with this sort of being like a mix of claymation animation style, it really sticks out, definitely, from even the previous one I was mentioning, in terms of just its action sequences in particular. Through their battle, though, or after it, April sees them, and eventually they end up coming out of the shadows. So April essentially seems pretty chill, a little bit freaked, at least initially, when she finds out it's not a costume, but it's like still owed for the save. So now they're like thinking big scale of like, if they can save the city, they can do that big scale to get all the people to appreciate them. They have to earn, you know, their want and desire to be a part of civilization and not be the outcast outright. But as of right now, April confirms that a large quantity of people are in the margin of, well, see something odd or out of the ordinary. Definitely, at least right now, the humans will probably look down at that. But the TMNT want in on her sort of initial take-in about trying to her being a journalist, as she says, and is struggling with that in her own way. So she's sort of aligning with them in that way, where she's willing to report their actions, and they're willing to take said actions to be heroes, while she's getting hopefully more recognized as a journalist throughout the movie. As they seem to, the TMNT arrive back at their base, Splinter seems a little suspicious of them, and they rush by and out and to re-meet with her later on, as she brings them to the high school, like when no one's around though. They see that April is struggling in her own right, as I just mentioned, as she's during her initial interviewing skills and wanting to do that, she essentially puked during her outing, and so that did not go as well as anticipated. So, but she does show that she has gathered a lot of intel already on this big heist. and they get some of the players in this heist as well. And I gotta say, they cut into this rather smooth TMNT transition of them fighting through it will have one of them fight in one building and then smoothly transition into another one taking the next action within the next building, and does that 4 times and then kind of flips back through the 4, I think, at least 2 more times, I want to say. So some pretty smooth transitions going on here, and I am a fan of that, because boy does that look really cool, visually speaking, in terms of also just really smooth transitioning too. So, unfortunately, Splinter seems to have found their stuff, and but they maintain the lie that nothing else is going on, they're just, going and doing the regular stuff that they've been doing, even if that did include them taking regular clothes anyway. So they encounter, during one of their heist stakeouts, Bebop and Rocksteady. This is their first time seeing other mutants of their own ilk once they arrive. And we see among Bebop and Rocksteady, which are vintage villains of the TMNT universe, we see other characters of their gallery, including the chillest of bros, Mondo Gecko, and I will say I do like his appearance more on the other one as well. Visually speaking, he looks a little bit weird here, in he still looks cool, I guess, but just a little less cool. And Mondo Gecko, and I think this is a direct reference to the version of that I liked a lot. He immediately tides over with Mikey pretty eagerly and pretty fast. Those two in that version of TMNT got pretty close as buds. They did this whole skateboarding thing, and they even swapped catchphrases of Cowabunga and whatever Mondo Gecko's was. I actually forgot. But Superfly is among these super mutants, and he reveals his own backstory, which seems to coincide with our own heroes. They are made from the same ooze, and in fact they had a very similar upbringing, if not very close, where they too wanted to explore the human world and were shunned. The only distinction between Superfly and now Splinter, as the movie clearly is trying to show us, is that Superfly is willing to kill and take over the human world, while Splinter was fine just being left alone and in the shadows, and just the humans can be over there and do their thing up there. So Superfly was willing to take it to that next extreme step. And obviously when that is put down on the table, the TMNT are like, ooh. So Johnny cleverly gears them to move locations. So they, as they're traveling, the TMNT try to take over the car, and then the mutants that are, that they were sort of almost semi-chilling with at this point, are now opposing them. So the TMNT gets surrounded, and one of the host of the initial attacks, I believe her name was Cynthia, says how she I guess she's like a part of the TCRI because she claims property over the TMNT as she grabs them, or tries to anyway, or actually is successful in doing this. while April sees this and goes off on her own to go arrive and gets to Splinter. Because in one earlier scene, the TMNT brought April pretty close to their lair, but then like they gave her like a stopping point, so she kind of essentially knew where they were. So they already set this up, so there's that already acknowledged. So, all the while, their area, the base, the TCRI base, gets breached by Splinter, and we get to see him use his techniques, which are very high in regard, obviously, being the master of masters in martial arts, among them. All the while, Superfly and the other mutants that are, they eventually like escape and reconfront Superfly, and with the others as well. And Splinter is also there. And the TMNT offer the alternative to join them in the sewers. So this is something completely new from other TMNT iterations, where they are typically just stay as the bad guys. Here, now confronted with a new solution, they're like, oh, we never even thought of it that way. Yeah, we're down to vibe. Oh man, I think that's my favorite part of the movie, quite frankly, because it's like, that kind of hits on the whole, because I already knew, as soon as I saw the trailers and how certain people were reacting, and how certain people were saying how this movie is going to be woke, because April's, black in this version, and she's been black once before already, so whatever. That people were going to be like, oh, this movie's just as woke, or whatever. It's be like, well, this movie's completely confronting that behavior and being like, well, if you expose people to wokeness or an alternative way of thinking, that's a good thing. Oh my god! It's like, geez, and if you keep people in one state of being, not introduce them to any diversity, it's a wonder that no one changes. It's like, yeah, of course. If they're never exposed to it as kids, like, yeah, it's way more likely that they're going to be, discouraging towards these other, people, whether that be the color of their skin, the orientation of their sexual orientation, and who they might be sexually attracted to, if an individual wants to transition their own sex, for example. Any of these things are more accepted when you're shown that there are also more opportunities, and again, when they are seen as other options. So, Superfly kind of antithesizes this as, you're all still stupid, I'm gonna stand by, I'm gonna maintain the status quo, I'm gonna go back to killing people, because that's cool, I guess. And in fact, when the other mutants see that as he's not willing, they kind of turn on him. Superfly tries to outreach specifically to Splinter, because Splinter was the only one holding back as the other mutants were attacking, and he's like, you were the one that was hating on the humans. Join me, stay old school. And Splinter was like, nah, you know what? I ain't about that. So Splinter joins in the fray to stop Superfly. Unfortunately, due to these actions, though, sorry for the cut. Couldn't be helped. Anyways, as I was saying, Superfly is being pushed by all the mutants. He ends up pushed into the water, where he oozes up even more, becomes a super mutant. A gun that was an anti-ooze gun was set up earlier in the movie. Raph shoots it at Superfly, or whatever his new name is. And he clearly sees that he needs it to be a better shot. Otherwise, he'll run out of ammo before essentially get the job done. So, as they make their way and as this carnage is continuing, the news currently is saying that all of the mutants are in on this. And this is where April O'Neil shoves this other reporter out of the way, does initially start reporting in her own way, does a little mini vomit here, so quite not have gotten over that part yet, fully anyway, but continues to tell the truth of the matter. True journalism instead of fake news. Here is where Leonardo also simultaneously tells the others to use their strengths to their fullest advantage, telling Mikey to improvise, Donnie to use his smarts and love for anime, and by the way, love the Attack on Titan reference that he does twice in the movie, because Attack on Titan is one of the goatest animes of all time. So, gotta respect the goats of anime, indeed. And I do appreciate that they bring mention to one of the goats of anime. This is his second time bringing Attack on Titan up specifically, so yeah, love it. Anyways, tells Raph to use his rage, and so on and so forth. And I believe April actually does this, her whole spiel after his Leo's leader spiel. But after that, Splinter joins the Turtles to essentially bring this anti-vial to the creature, to hit it in the back of the neck, which is why Donnie specifically mentioned Attack on Titan. That is a direct reference to how the Titans are mostly slain in that show via the back of the neck, or the nape, as it were. So it definitely has a identical weakness in this regard. So that's why they plan to shoot or throw the vial. So Splinter joins in with getting the vial closer, and thusly, with all the news reports that April has been giving, the humans see that he's now struggling and proceed to help him, because now they know the distinction between the mutants that are trying to help stop this mutant, and yeah, all that. So, with their help, they are able to move the vial closer and closer to the main TMNT, who are able to climb up and throw the vial into the weak spot. And as they proceed to remove this threat to the city, the TMNT is celebrated by the people, and they get what they were sort of after at the end sequence. And we do see that that the other mutants that we were seeing, they do indeed take up that offer and join the sewers with our TMNT squad. This version of Splinter gets a girlfriend, I guess, because that was like set up earlier in the movie. I don't know why, but I guess that's a thing that they're trying to do, so whatever. And thus, they want to continue to pursue the high school that they were a part of, so they're like, we'll do that. So Splinter's like, alright, I'll let you do that. So they remove their bandanas, don their regular clothes, or more regular clothes, join the high school, and once they enter in, there is a pause, and then the people celebrate. And that was the end of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Excuse me. So, I will say that unfortunately, there's a good and bad to this in terms of like sequences, because I do want to see more of this iteration of TMNT, and usually I mean, TMNT has been more prompted in a series rather than movies in quite a while now, but so this is a movie, obviously. So it would be prompted to ask, is this going to reformat the movies moving forward? Are we going to continue to see them move throughout this way in movie format, or is there going to be a future series with this iteration of the TMNT? Too early to tell right now. And the downside of that, of too early to tell, is even if they did, let's say if this movie was a major success, they did just incorporate a lot of their main villain gallery into their own squad pretty early on at the end of this movie. However, that's not all of the villains, so there's still other mutants that they can definitely throw in there, as well as Splinter's main rival and the Foot Clan, which is definitely a position I think that, seeing the Foot Clan being introduced in a proper context for this version of TMNT to deal with moving forward would probably be the most optimal way to go in terms of if they ever wanted to do a sequel or a series. Because the Foot Clan is a lot of fun, and having Splinter have his main rival and Shredder be the big thing that they progress forward with. Again, whether that be through a new movie or a series. There are definitely some other popular hero mutants that they can come across. There's that bunny character who Leonardo befriends in some of the other iterations. Forget his name sometimes, and I don't remember off the top of my head right now. Seeing him again would be a really cool thing, because having the ninja meet the samurai is really cool potential, just spewed out for you really easy. There are clearly other mutants that they can again deal with. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a wait and see sort of thing if they're going to continue on with this iteration, or if this is just an independent movie. Who knows? But there's definitely some room for continuation again, with the Foot Clan and Shredder being like the main thing that I can think of as an obvious next step. But we'll see in terms of any official capacity, and if the other mutants will just be on their squad or whatever, however they're gonna do it. And yeah, that's my review of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. And if you did, and my score. I would give it an 8 out of 10 or a 7 out of 10. Relatively high. I think that this adaptation is rather faithful in its depiction of, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in that regard. Combining with some of the old with some of the new here. Them gaining popularity is definitely something way more old school, and then maintaining the ninja status quo throughout a good chunk of the film is also something that's very, I think, could have been maintained, but having it, be this way is fine, I guess, again, for an independent movie as well, so which way, it works out decently enough. Anyway, so really solid outing. Really do appreciate again how they were able to achieve the whole teenage aspect and hit that closer than other iterations in terms of just casting, because it does bring again that level of authenticity that just can't quite be equally matched by another actor. Again, I'll keep saying it, they can get close, but there's never going to be an equal to just getting the person that matches the thing that they are. That's always going to be the case throughout history. So yeah, pretty strong movie. really enjoyed it, and that's my full review. And if you ended up enjoying this full review, then please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, make sure to check out those links in the description. One will head you over to my petition to help out smaller YouTubers. Second and third to my Patreon and PayPal, where you help support me and my channel. And fourth to my Discord server, you can join, collab, and chill and do all that cool stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.